Welcome, guys. We're here at Imperial Gaming and Collectibles doing another deck profile with Yohan. Tell us what you did, Yohan.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I went to the Philly and the Hartford Regional last 2 weeks. At the Philly Regional, I ended up placing 53rd, which, just an invite, but in Hartford, I brought back pretty much the same deck other than a few changes, and then we did 44th, which is a little better, but just a few differences in both of the events that kind of, like one I kind of lost heavily to Fualos, while the other one was more about just the opponent having, maybe even winning the die roll, let's call it, but just them having too much for me to then impress them with like hand traps. But before we get started into the deck profile, I wanted to shout out a few people. First, Team Imperial, so thank you guys for being a part of everything that we do here with Yu-Gi-Oh! And helping us to Will, Shaq, Kiko, everyone part of Team Imperial, Joe Bogley, really went out of their ways to kind of help test before the event and just kind of get everything down to like a science and see like how we should interact with certain things. And it really helped because like no matter how good you are, you could always still learn a few things. So I really appreciate that. And then now let's go into the deck. All right, so first, of course, we're playing the 3 Ice Ryzeal. We're playing 3 Extra Ryzeal. The reason why I didn't cut this down to 2 in this build, as you guys are going to see a little bit later, is he's still a very, very good starter card. And even though if you have something else on the board and you can't search with him, he's still just, like I said, a good way to start the engine itself. And I finished that off with the 2 swords as well. So we got 2 swords, 3 and 3, the 3 bonfires, the cross, and the node. Pretty standard. I am running, as you guys will see, the bestial package inside of here, so that's why I'm not running the full entire engine. We're also playing the Fiendsmith because this is the best part about this deck. For consistency purposes, we definitely want to run like 3 engravers and 2 tracked. At Philly though, I actually was running 3 tracked instead of 2 tracked. And the reason why is because this card is such a good starter in and of itself that I felt that it was kind of crucial to have it at 3 because you always wanted to get into this engine. It was the case, but I tended to have hands in which I would draw like 2 of these and an engraver and a lacrima or like a lurry, and it'd be like an all Fiendsmith like engine hand, which I kind of wanted to just lessen down on because I thought this was a pretty consistent ratio, but I just wanted to test out that 3rd. And then of course we played the Fiendsmith in Paradise. I see a lot of people citing this card out. It's not wrong or right, but like we got to remember this game is no longer just like 1 or 2 turns and you know kind of who won. It's a grind game. So this card is so important. Like this card alone won me like multiple matches only because I set it up on when I was going 2nd. Next we have the bestial package. So we're playing triple Lubellion, 1 Magnamut, true Druish Worms, and the branded Regained. So with these 3 cards here, the hard thing is I love this card. I'm kind of feeling like I want to take away this engine only because it's kind of win more. So for the most part, you want to be able to stop your opponents and then to keep playing through. And sometimes I would just hard draw Regained, which isn't bad. But if I don't have a bestial to follow it up with, I'm only using partial of the effect, and then they're like kind of getting rid of this one way or another. So it's an interesting concept, but it worked really well. I mean, Lubellion's super powerful, and combining it with the Necroquip to draw 1 is really, really broken. So at Philly, I was actually playing a Baldrake as well in here. I decided to take out the Baldrake because I never found myself utilizing it at all. Like, I'm normally going for Druish Worms because I was playing the mirror match, so I wanted to stop their detonator. This is good if I'm like going first and then I'm like searching something to then kind of try to stop them, but it kind of felt win more-ish too, or like I would hard draw it and I wouldn't really need it, so it wasn't as useful. Now, played a decently big hand trap count. So we got 3 Fualos, we got 3 Ash, got 3 Nibs, 3 Veilers, 3 Imperms. So 6, 9, 12, 15. So we got 15 hand traps here, as well as like the 3 Bestials. So for an 18 total count. And then kind of non-engine as well, just 2 Talents. Talents is one of the best cards in the format. The only thing about Talents is I found myself in situations where like I would go first, have Talents, but then never use it because my opponent never hand trapped me. So I'm considering putting this in the side deck to use more as like a thrust target. But we'll see about that. We'll see how that kind of plays out. So that's it for the main deck. Now let's go on to the extra deck. So the extra deck, of course, you got to play the best card in the deck, which is Chaos Angel. I found myself making this card a lot, especially a light and dark, so that they couldn't kind of go over it no matter what they had. They had to hard draw in perm, in the mirror at least, had a hard draw in perm, or just try to Desiree beat over it, but that would require multiple turns, so by then you normally are able to get rid of whatever they have. Then we got the 2 detonators, the duo drive. I only play 1 duo drive, it's all that's necessary. Most of the time I barely go for duo drive. I'm only going if I kind of feel like I guarantee that I'm going to resolve it, or if I want them to hand trap it so that I can then continue to play and then just bring out the detonator like I wanted to. I got High Caesar, Typhon, Logic, and Exciton Knight. So for this event, I also ended up playing Abyss Dweller. So I didn't play this in Philly. I played SP Little Knight over it, but I decided to switch it up for Abyss Dweller because in 10 rounds, it didn't come up once. I purely never used SP. At Hartford, I did use Dweller like twice, so it was pretty useful. And I had it, actually, I played Jose Santiago in the last round, and he used this against me, and it pretty much shut me down because my hand was all in like Fiendsmith engine, so there was nothing I could do. Exciton Knight, just one of my favorite cards. There's so many plays where you might have even count, but I bring him up so they think, oh, he's just gonna go into Requiem, and then I go like Fiendsmith Engraver pitch effect, and then I just chain his effect to it and then blow up the board. And they weren't really like thinking of that, and had one guy who had like a Solemn Strike to like stop the summoning but didn't use it because he was like, oh, I'll stop something else, and then he was just kind of forced in a weird situation to do it after. And then to round it out, we got the Fiendsmith package. All of this is pretty mandatory across the board. Princess, one of the best cards in the extra deck, just because of the fact that with Engraver, with Lubellion, with your opponent's hand trapping you, this just allows you to draw extra cards.
Then we'll move on to the side deck.
Yeah. Then for the side deck, I played Triple Lancia, Double Thrust, Harpies, Change of Hearts, Sanctum, and D-Barrier. So the concept was Malice Hate, of course. This is just for everything else to kind of try to floodgate Malice, stop Ryzeal. I mean, to be fair, this card doesn't hurt Ryzeal that much anymore if they're playing the Fiendsmith engine. But, I mean, you definitely saw Pure. Pretty sure the person who won Hartford was playing Pure. So it's just one of those cards that when it comes up, it's extremely oppressive. Change of Hearts was a weird pick. I never ended up using it, but in testing, it came up a lot. Like, I could Change of Hearts their detonator, force them to pop it, then make my like talents or my thrust live, or even just taking like their Hearts of Crypt or trying to like break their board. It was really useful. Harpies definitely came up. I played a Malice player, and the game one went for almost 30 minutes. There was like 18 minutes left on the clock, and I legitimately won the next 2 games in like a 15-minute time span, because game 3, going second, I hard drew this, and I Harpy Feather Dustered him, then thrusted talents to take his Hearts of Cryptor, and then just summoned and attacked for game. So it definitely comes up.
Did you play any Tenpai throughout your tournament?
I did not. I played Ryzeal, Malice. I lost to a Memento player. He ended up placing 4th in the event. It was an interesting game, but I played that, and then I played like a Ubel player as well when I was in Philly. But primarily it was all Malice or Ryzeal for the most part. And then I played triple Metaltronus. This was a card I wanted to test out for the event. So previously in Philly, I was using Ultimate Slayer instead of Metaltronus. And Ultimate Slayer is very good, don't get me wrong. It's just, in my experience at Philly, I kept getting Fualos over and over and over again. And that was the only card I lost to in the entire event. Like 6 of my losses were because of Fualos. So what that made me kind of decide, I need a card that does the same thing that Ultimate Slayer kind of does, but that I could also play going first. So if they do Fualos me, then I can use something like this, or like Solemn Strike, in order to kind of defer them from paying, so that it comes back to me, and then I just start playing again. Weirdly enough, I actually never drew this once in the entire 9 rounds as well, so never came up, but in theory, it's pretty good. I think I'm definitely going to play the Ultimate Slayer, just because what I noticed was, now at the Hartford regionals, I didn't lose because of Fualos at all. Like, it just didn't come up. Like, and maybe I lost a game or 2 there, here and there, but like, it never like fully costed me the game. I had ways to potentially get through it. Where this card, I would draw all the time for some reason. So because I was drawing this all the time, I was destroying people going second the entire event. And I felt a little bit at like a disadvantage in the mirror because I didn't have this in, where Metaltronus in theory would have done the same thing, right? But just never saw it. So, but there was a few changes, because these 3 cards I didn't play when I was in Hartford, and I also didn't play the Change of Hearts. So these 4 cards I didn't play at the at the Philly regionals. I only played them at the Hartford one. And then I was playing Cowboy. So Cowboy and Hartford came up one time, actually. I played a Ubel player. It's probably one of the hardest, not hardest, but the best games that I had in the entire event. It went to time, and then my branded regained let me draw into a Lacrima, so that I can normal summon the Lacrima and talents take his Lacrima to make Cowboy to win the game. Where, like, in theory, if I didn't have this, it would have just been a draw. So it would have been a completely different event. But at the same time, it came up once in 10 rounds. So does that justify a slot in my side deck for, 1 round? With that's why I kind of ended up making these changes of these 4 cards for these 4 cards, to try to give a little bit more balance to my side deck. Overall, I mean, it was really good. I played a lot of pretty good players over the weekend, but I feel like I like the Change of Hearts change. I think just really the Metaltronus I'm going to maybe swap back, or maybe try to find something else that I could do to replace it. But that's pretty much it for the deck. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Yohan. Good luck at the next event, all right?
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Bye. Welcome, guys. We're here at Imperial Gaming and Collectibles doing another deck profile with Yohan. Tell us what you did, Yohan.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I went to the Philly and the Hartford regional last 2 weeks. At the Philly regional, I ended up placing 53rd, which, just an invite, but in Hartford, I brought back pretty much the same deck other than a few changes, and then we did 44th, which is a little better, but just a few differences in both of the events that kind of Like one I kind of lost heavily to Fualos, while the other one was more about just the opponent having, maybe even winning the die roll, let's call it, but just them having too much for me to then impress them with like hand traps. But before we get started into the deck profile, I wanted to shout out a few people. First, Team Imperial, so thank you guys for being a part of everything that we do here with Yu-Gi-Oh! And helping us to Will, Shaq, Kiko, everyone part of Team Imperial, Joe Bogley, really went out of their ways to kind of help test before the event and just kind of get everything down to like a science and see like how we should interact with certain things. And it really helped because like no matter how good you are, you could always still learn a few things. So I really appreciate that. And then now let's go into the deck profile.